Joe Stanley, and it is so lovely to be with you as always with Luke Darcy, Jacqui Felgate and Dr. Nick Carr. It's so nice to be here. Now, April 22nd is Earth Day, which is all about everyone around the globe coming together to protect our beautiful planet.
Earth Day started in 1970 and now more than 1 billion people from 192 different countries are all doing their bit. And this year, Jack, the theme is Planet versus Plastic.
Darcy, it is, as the name suggests, aiming to achieve a 60% reduction in the use of all plastics by 2040, and that includes things like single-use plastics and fast fashion.
Yeah, and it's a big deal with NGOs and governments from around the world meeting in Canada to nut out the UN Global Plastics Treaty. And this year, the focus is really on microplastics and the effects that they have on babies and young children.
And as we gear up for Earth Day, today's show is all about getting active. Now, Darcy, you're one of the many AFL players who has focused on wellness post-playing, both mental and physical.
I'm not surprised, Joe, that others are getting into that field. You spend a lot of your time thinking about your mental and physical health as a professional sports person. And so there is a bit of an urge to want to pass that on for good, and great to see more people getting into the field. Brothers Will Slade and Ben Sinclair, they played hard on the field for Collingwood and Geelong respectively, but they're all about a more healthier, holistic and happy life, and we're going to catch up with them right now.
Deep breath in, breath out.
Slade's gone forward, one at a ground level. Quick snap from Will Slade is a belter! What a great goal!
After putting in some solid years playing AFL and dealt more than his share of injuries, Ben Sinclair and his brother Will Slade have traded in the footy boots for some more mindful practices. Two brothers that played AFL football now standing together in a wellness studio. That's a pretty interesting journey, boys. Good to see you. Tell us about it.
I guess we've both been doing a lot of recovery sort of stuff as we played, with a lot of ice bathing and saunering. But our older brother actually told us about Wim Hof. And we got into the Wim Hof breathing and then doing cold exposure down at the beach. And then, yeah, I think Will had the ability to build the place. So we were like, let's give it a crack and jump into it.
Pretty brutal game, AFL football. You had your fair share of injuries and concussions between the two of you. How has this impacted your health in this chapter of your life?
The concussions that I had throughout my career, where I've noticed the cold exposure and the breath work particularly, just like calming the nervous systems helps me to chill out when things are just getting a little bit overwhelming.
I think it definitely has helped with, you know, your stress management, I guess, and the initial shock of stress. It definitely does work.
Oh. Get in, people. We're starting.
The guys are big advocates for cold water therapy, something that drew me in after spending some time with the Iceman himself.
Follow your breath.
Wim Hof's breath work and ice baths promote a host of physical and mental benefits, practices I still use today. I've got the words of Wim Hof in my mind. I don't feel the cold, I just feel the power. It's true, isn't it? If it's 5 degrees, if you're not present, you're going to be in a bit of pain, but as soon as you are, you can actually feel quite calm in there.
You might go there and you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this 3-minute ice bath, but with that sort of reassurance and that guidance and telling you how to breathe properly in that stressful moment from the instructors is a huge help for people to get
It's also the peer pressure of a group environment, I think. If you see, you know, even 1 or 2 people getting in, you're not really wanting to chicken out at that point.
So, Will, you're about to take me inside what I understand is the biggest sauna in the Southern Hemisphere. Is that correct?
It is.
Extremes are at the core of what the guys are doing here. Hot and cold, but all geared around harnessing the inner workings of the mind as well as putting the body through its paces. Had ice baths just started in vogue in your area, or was that?
Yeah, they were all more up to the waist though, just for sort of the recovery of the legs. So when I got into the Wim Hof, it was all about getting up to the neck, getting the vagus nerve stimulated. So I used to go down to just the beach in winter mainly, or would just fill up the bin with some ice.
Shift your shoulders over your wrists, take a breath in, and exhale, bend the elbows halfway. Good, hold for
Yoga's a big part of what you guys do here. Was that something the two of you used in your AFL footy days?
Yeah, I was using some yoga practices throughout my career, more so for like mobility sort of recovery sort of aspect. But yeah, then when I finished footy, I went and did a yoga teacher training. So that's where I sort of delved a lot deeper into it.
Hold for 3, 2, and 1. Exhale, release.
Brothers in a family business, got some upside and some challenges. How's it working out for the two of you?
We definitely have learnt to, not react to each other. If we have a disagreement of some sort, we're pretty good at, talking it out.
I guess being brothers, when you do have a disagreement, you can't just walk away from each other. You're going to face each other at the family dinner table, so you make it work.
Tell you what, I really enjoyed my day with Ben and Will. They have created an absolutely beautiful space there in Collingwood.
Yeah. Now, Das, it might not surprise you to know I was not particularly sporty at school. I was too busy in the musicals. But I always assumed that it was because I lacked the physique. But interesting research that's come out of an Australian university shows what actually makes a champion, and it isn't how fast you run or actually your physical build.
You're so right, Jo. This is what basketball coaches look for when they're trying to find a future champion. And what they've found is they're actually less interested in physical attributes, how fast a person runs or how tall they may be. Rather, they're looking at a person's decision-making, good decision-making on and off the court.
So sadly, still no hope for me then. but coaches really believe that the ability to make smart decisions doesn't just make you a champion on the court, but actually means you're more likely to make really healthy lifestyle decisions like sleeping and eating well.
Yeah, I think people really value being a great teammate and the concentration required to be a champion athlete. So the physical skills are often easier to teach and learn, whereas making smart decisions, that's probably a bit more instinctive.
Well, physical strength and muscles can definitely be trained and improved over time. Here's Vicky Little to show us how.
So the latest sports science is that isometric exercises can be an effective way to lower blood pressure. But what are isometric exercises?
Essentially, isometric exercises tighten a specific muscle group for a period of time. They're done in one position and without any movement, like sitting against the wall.
This exercise is a real burner. It works your quads, your glutes, and your calves. It looks simple, but for it to work, you need to get the position right. Nice flat back like you're sitting in a chair. Legs are at 90 degrees, so your knees are directly above your feet. The weight should be on your heels, not your toes.
Hold it for 20 seconds, or a minute if you feel okay. To really get the max benefit, do it 3 times and try to increase each one by 5 seconds. If you want to upscale, try it with a couple of weights.
Without strong quads, you'd struggle to get around, to walk, run, squat, or just get out of a chair. No matter what your age, a wall sit is for everyone. Great for building your strength.
And so is this one.
No equipment required. All you need is a floor and gravity.
Push your forearms into the mat and form a straight line from your head and neck down to your feet.
And then hold. The power of the plank is that it targets every major core muscle.
If you're up for the plank challenge, try one every day for just 1 minute, and you'll see an improvement in your posture, balance, and even your mood. How does that work? Well, planks target shoulders, neck, and back, the stress corners of the body. So as these muscles release, so do any feelings of stress or tension.
While isometric exercises build strength, not body mass, they also have another huge benefit.
They can lower blood pressure. Over time, isometrics can be even more effective than high-intensity or dynamic resistance training or aerobic exercise in decreasing blood pressure.
Not that it means to choose a wall sit or a plank over your regular exercise. Just add them in, as long as you're moving your body every day. And if you spend a lot of time at your desk anyway, maybe forget the chair and try the wall instead.
Well, Joe, before the break, we caught up with a couple of AFL players taking a more gentle approach to their health and well-being in a holistic way. But in reality, you women have been way ahead of the curve than us guys for a long time.
Oh, well, I mean, there are trailblazers in women wherever you look. Something actually that the new range of Barbies celebrates with its new role models collection. They're not for sale. They are one-offs of the women that they are in honour of, including our own Kylie Minogue, as well as Helen Mirren, Shania Twain and Viola Davis.
Nice diverse range of women there, Joe, which is a great celebration. Right at the other end of the scale, though, quite tragically, a lot of young girls in India actually stopped going to school because they don't have access to toilets.
Businessman Mark Bella was just as gobsmacked when he heard that. And a decade later, his efforts have helped over 150,000 school kids and earned him the title of Toilet Warrior.
Mark, you've been to one of the biggest slums in the world in India. Can you describe that for me?
Yeah, look, it's a place called Dharavi. It's got a population of about 1 million people, all crammed into an area about twice the size of Melbourne's Albert Park Lake. It's a seriously crowded place.
What does a place like that look, smell, feel like?
I guess the first thing you notice when you go to a big slum is it's chaotic. There's broken bits of tin and blue tarpaulins all over the place and streets that go in directions you don't expect them to go in, sometimes so narrow that two people can't walk down at the same time. And depending where you are, it can smell horrible or it can smell like cooking.
What stood out for you the most, though?
We were in this school and I was looking around, lots of little boys and little girls, lots of teenage boys, but there were no teenage girls in the school. And I asked my friends who'd taken me there what was going on. They said, well, they've all dropped out because the school has no toilets. The implications for adolescent girls are pretty catastrophic. Once they get to that age when they're having their period, if they need to go to school and they got their period at the same time, if there's no toilet, they're kind of stuck. And so they give up on education. It ends up being a time of lost opportunity for girls in India and many other countries in the developing world that face the same kinds of problems.
What was different for you that you thought, you know what, I'm actually going to make a change here?
Well, the first thing is my own daughter was about 13 at the time. So it was really personal for me because she was moving on into secondary school and looking ahead to an exciting future, university and so on. And I couldn't help but imagine what it would be like for her. I started talking about it first, telling people the story that you're hearing now, and then from that it started sort of snowballing, and then before I knew it we were building toilets in schools. First one toilet in a school with 15 kids, and 15 toilets in a school with 500 kids, and then 5,000 kids in the next project. And this has started 12 years ago, and we've reached nearly 200,000 kids since then. It's just...
How does one man do this? What did you do to actually get this impact?
Look, I like talking. I like telling this story. It keeps me awake at night. It keeps me energetic during the day. And I found people to talk to who are ready to listen and ready to support what I wanted to do. And I joined a Rotary club in Melbourne, which happened to be just the right club with the energy to go out and make changes that needed to be made.
No doubt you will have experienced a young girl who was a local experiencing the facilities for the first time. Have you got any memories that are close to your heart?
I have. Yeah, it's a very emotional day. In fact, we'd just completed a project in a school of 3,000 kids, and the previous toilets that they had there were horrendous. They wouldn't let me in on one occasion because there were too many snakes in the building, and yet the girls were going in and out using it as a toilet. And when we opened these new toilets, we'd come back to have a look 6 months after to see if they were still in good condition. And as we're leaving the school grounds, two girls about 15 years old came running up and stood between us and the school gates, and one of them bent down to touch my feet, which is it's a sign of respect in India, and I never really liked it. I sort of lifted her up, said, no need to do that, and she said, sir, we wanted you to know you've changed our lives with these toilets. Yeah, I still get quite emotional thinking about that day.
Hey, Nick, really excited that the 2024 AFL season is underway. Spent a fair bit of my life in that part of the world, both at community and professional level. But a big talking point at the moment for a lot of contact sports is how they're dealing with concussion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, as you know, all the contact sports are taking that really seriously. And AFL, AFLW, they've decided to retain the 12-day mandatory exclusion after concussion. And for everyone else, adults, kids, state and local level, it's going to be 21 days, a full 3 weeks after concussion.
So, Nick, there's always going to be a discussion around helmets in junior sport. My understanding is the research for 30 or 40 years shows that it actually doesn't have an impact on concussion. There's rules now around less tackling for under 10s and trying to keep as much contact out at the youngest level as possible. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, they do have some trials tipped to start this year on mandatory helmets, maybe looking to make them compulsory. But yeah, I'm a bit of a sceptic because I don't think the science really supports that they're proven to work. But AFL's been paid for 150 years without them, so, you know, could be time for a change.
One of my concerns, Nick, is we're not talking about the positive effect of playing sport and the fact that getting out there, team sport, connecting, being physical, staying off the screens, there's a huge benefit in doing that. Yes, there's a risk in concussion we've got to take seriously, but hopefully we get the balance of that conversation right. And interestingly, most injuries take place in the playground. Here's Dr. Warwick Teague, an expert from the Royal Children's Hospital.
If we take all the children that get injured in Australia each year, about a third of those children will have been injured from a fall, and the most likely environment or setting for that fall is a playground or a piece of playground equipment. A hospital like the Royal Children's Hospital, we see the full range of injuries. Bent forearm, which is going to get better, through to the spinal injury, which is going to be really importantly cared for, but probably is going to have a long-term impact on that child. That's hard, really, because these children have been in a fun place. They've been doing something that all the other children have been doing, but in the moment of their injury, they sustain something pretty serious. And whilst as a team we gather around and we bring all our expertise and all our care to do everything we can for that child and for their future, we do have concerns about the way in which that child will grow up and enjoy life to their fullness. There are some key elements around making playground play safer. This goes right back to when the playground is built or when we install playground equipment in our home. So when we think about the setting, it should be a nice open area, perhaps also with some shade, and it should be something that which we can see really clearly the children on the playground, because supervision is going to be key to keeping this playground safe. Having a softer surface upon which a child might fall will be really important in reducing the severity of the injuries that they might sustain. They might still break their arm, but hopefully wouldn't sustain a significant head injury. With our youngest children, we might need to be literally in arm's reach of that child all the time. Then there are things like swings. We need to make sure that children are kept away from that swinging environment, because not only can you be injured from falling from a swing, you can be injured from being struck by a child who is on a swing. So we need to be just watching the perimeter, because children will just wander in and out of that space quite unaware of the danger. Most of what we've been talking about is a playground, somewhere we might leave home and go to. What about at our homes? And while some people do have play equipment at home, the most popular and perhaps the most prominent in this discussion would be a trampoline. Now, we should make sure we buy good, safe trampolines for our children. These are the springless or covered spring trampolines that they have enclosing netting. And as long as that netting is done up and as long as those springs and trampolines are well maintained, that's a good, safe space for a child to play in. We can, however, make that less safe as soon as we bring more than one child onto the trampoline at once. And I completely recognise that that is a moment that many children have lots and lots of hours of fun with. But in that moment, they're actually skirting in and out of injury and risk all the time in a way that probably isn't okay. I've seen a child's leg snap in that situation. Just go from being a whole leg to a snapped leg simply because they were bouncing on a trampoline with another person. And the energy was just too much. The message that I would hope people hear from this is not stop bringing your children into playgrounds and having them play on equipment at your home. We're wanting to stop the kind of injuries that bring a child out of school for the year, that put a child into a wheelchair for the rest of their lives. And it's those most serious injuries that can be helped with still the same simple measures we've spoken about.
What doesn't happen at New York Fashion Week? You've got runway shows, you've got celebrities, street fashion, beauty launches, exclusive parties, the list goes on and on. I was lucky enough to get the chance to work during Fashion Week. I'll never forget that moment. I got to stay right in Soho, so around all the hustle, all the fashion, and it was there that I really looked at what everyone was doing with their beauty game. And I've got to say, eye makeup was definitely at the forefront, and that's where I saw Mob Wives, the TikTok trend that is going viral, really in person. I've got to say, I took it on board and did it on myself as well. With the Mob Wife aesthetic in particular, there's a certain energy that's associated. So as you can imagine, bold, strong, fierce, and really, what woman out there today isn't three of those things? So the finished look with the eyeshadow really would be like a black eyeliner around the eye and smudging that around the eye. It's very deep and dark, and then blending it and blasting it almost out with a really beautiful chocolate shade. The lip look really involves a good lip liner and a nude shade element. So if we're talking about an aesthetic and we're talking about beauty, you have to have the perfect hairstyle to go with it. So think bounce, volume, anything extra really.
Mob Wife is the vibes all 2024.
Let's start with a black eyeliner, and we're going to put it inside the eye on the waterline. I'm going to almost smudge it out. You don't need to be neat with this because we're setting it as our base. Eyeliners normally take around 30 seconds to set, so you've got a real little short window to play around and blend. And now with the brown shadow, just blend it all in. And this is really good to just buff in with a buffing brush. And we'll just add some mascara. Mob Wife aesthetic means lots and lots of layers of mascara. You can see dramatically how different it is, clean girl versus Mob Wife. Now, we must match the other eye. And now the important part is to line the lips and make them almost a little overdrawn. I'm starting in the middle.
Capito.
So the Mob Wife aesthetic is finished, done. Vesla, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling sultry and rich.
You look very expensive, I will say that.
Thanks to Jade for the latest in New York fashion there. Now, Dr. Nick, we hear reports that deaths due to cancer are on the decline in Western countries, including in Australia. Is this the case, and why?
Well, it's actually great news, Jo, because UK data has shown a drop in death rates from cancer in middle-aged adults by a third between 1993 and 2018. And that steady decline has been mirrored in the USA and here in Australia. And probably two major reasons. One is the reduction in cervical cancer death rates due to our fantastic Australian invention, the cervical cancer vaccine, and also a reduction in lung cancer deaths due to fewer people smoking.
It also can be put down to the amazing medical advancements to treat all different kinds of cancer, many of which is happening right here in Australia, including at the world-renowned Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, which has a brand new weapon against the disease.
The immune system works by keeping track of all things found in the body. But when a new substance enters that the immune system doesn't recognise, it becomes all-out war. The immune system responds with the ultimate form of defence: attack.
T cells are the cells that help you fight infection, and particularly viral infections, but they also have a role in preventing cancer cells developing.
What's so special about CAR T-cell therapy in treating blood cancers is that it uses a person's own immune cells to destroy the cancer cells.
It's very personalised, so you design the therapy using the patient's own immune system, number one. You design the therapy to recognise a protein on the surface of their cancer, number two. And so you get less off-target effects. Chemotherapy goes everywhere and attacks normal tissues, whereas CAR T-cell therapy is very precisely targeted towards the proteins on the surface of the malignant cell, and therefore it avoids hitting the normal tissues.
The process involves removing the T cells, which are a type of white blood cell, separating and altering them, and then infusing them back into the patient. The amazing part is that CAR T cells then start to increase in number, which help destroy more cancer cells.
The CAR T-cell therapy is a living drug, so it expands up to 10,000-fold in the patient's own body.
Where other treatments for blood cancers have failed, CAR T-cell therapy offers new hope. It's a one-off approach that can prevent relapse.
I was diagnosed with marginal zone lymphoma. That was back in 2020. I couldn't believe the diagnosis because at the time I was likely the fittest and healthiest I'd ever been in my life. I had chemotherapy and radiation and got complete remission, which was fantastic. Although it relapsed and came back. And when it came back as a more aggressive lymphoma called large B-cell lymphoma.
Triathlete Matt Turner was rocked by the news of a relapse. But less than 9 months after CAR T-cell treatment, the father of 3 is in complete remission and back in training.
It's a great relief that I was able to receive this CAR T therapy and survive.
So patients who are eligible for CAR T-cell therapy have gone through multiple other treatments and therefore have limited treatment options available to them. Now with CAR T-cell therapy, more than half the patients stay in remission for long periods of time. We're trying to improve on those results to ensure that the patients who go through this treatment can continue to enjoy long-lasting remissions.
Peter McCallum is the only site in the country that manufactures CAR T-cell therapy. And with the new gene and cell facility that opened last year, production is up 400%. But not all CAR T-cell therapies are government funded. Patients need to meet certain criteria to be able to get it for free.
So blood cancers in total account for about 10% of all cancers. And then the subtypes that we are currently treating are relatively uncommon. So pediatric and young adult acute lymphoblastic leukemia is relatively uncommon. And multiple myeloma, which is one of the more common cancers which we're waiting for CAR T-cell therapy to be approved for, affects about 2,000 patients in Australia every year.
This living drug therapy has revolutionised how aggressive blood cancers are treated, with the hope that it will do the same for other types of cancers in the future.
The centre gives us the opportunity to bring the best ideas from Australian academic investigators, but also biotech industry, to develop those ideas into treatments that can go into early phase trials for patients to see whether they actually deliver the promise of being able to control the diseases the patients have.
It enables me to appreciate what I have more, knowing what I've been through and being thankful for what I have.
To see this work come to fruition where it's actually changing people's lives, in particularly patients who have no other treatment options, it's really gratifying and exciting to be part of that story.
The journey to motherhood is filled with joy and excitement, one that I have been absolutely treasuring. But it is full of new experiences, morning sickness, changes to your body, plus all the preparation. It can all get a bit overwhelming, so it's no surprise that many forget the best gift you can give your new baby is taking care of your own health. Endorsed by the Australian College of Midwives, Natalis Pregnancy Support assists with the increased nutritional needs of us mothers-to-be, from preconception and pregnancy through to breastfeeding. It's formulated with 19 important ingredients, but with a focus on 3 key nutrients that support both mum and baby. Folic acid, reducing the risk of neural tube defects such as spina bifida, iodine to help babies' brain development, and iron to help prevent iron deficiency. Proudly Australian-made and owned, this convenient one-a-day dose helps meet the Australian recommended daily intake for folic acid, iodine and iron. Natalis also supports the Miracle Babies Foundation, where every product sold helps a family with a baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. Since August 2020, the partnership between Natalis and the Miracle Babies Foundation has supported over 6,200 Australian families. The saying goes that it takes a whole village to raise a child, and while I haven't quite got to the raising part just yet, I can already definitely appreciate the village that is helping give baby Davidson a healthy start in life.
And a huge congratulations to Sarah and Nick on the arrival of their beautiful baby boy, Edward Shane Davidson. Little Teddy, he's so beautiful. And Sarah and Nick are honestly doing a great job as first-time parents.
Congratulations to both of them. No doubt they will do a fantastic job. And I think of our experience of Beck having the 4 kids and just marvel at how amazing she was, how incredible she coped. Full of inspiration for her.
Isn't it amazing how you can have a craving for a food that is like when you're pregnant, it's so intense, and then as soon as you have the baby, no cravings anymore?
Is that right?
Yes. Did Beck have any cravings?
I don't remember.
To be left alone.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Stay away from me and do what I say.
Well, for all those pregnant women who are craving strong flavours like perhaps sardines, you're in luck. Here's Zoe with a delish fishy dish.
For many of us time-poor, on-the-go people, the thought of a healthy, sophisticated lunch is simply out of reach. But with a total prep and cooking time of under half an hour, my sardines with fennel and smoked chilli salad is going to be your new lunchtime go-to.
Ain't life so good? Yeah, this life is good.
Keeping it simple, I'm seasoning the sardines with just the basics, sea salt and ground pepper. Think of sardines as less polarising than salty anchovies, but a lot more exciting than tin tuna. Plus, it will give you a boost of omega-3 fatty acids. They can go straight onto the pan, medium heat, for about 5 minutes each side. And if the thought of cooking fish in an office kitchen gives you a little bit of the ick, do it at home. They'll last about 3 days in the fridge. The meaty texture of sardines makes it the ideal accompaniment to a salad. I'm keeping it light and crunchy. Fennel, Spanish onion and celery are the heroes. All matching the tang of the sardines, but not overpowering them. You can't have any sort of fish without a drizzle of lemon. Smoked chilli is optional, but I love that hint of heat. Serve the sardines on a bit of salad and a wedge of lemon.
And it says I was born for you.
With its zesty, seaside-inspired flavours. Oh, yeah. This is a holiday on a plate. And in record time. Get Nourished is brought to you by Swiss Ultiboost High Strength Krill Oil, a premium quality, sustainably sourced formula to relieve knee pain and stiffness in mild to moderate osteoarthritis and support heart, brain and eye health.
Here's the thing, I am naturally a night person, but I feel like I need to get out of bed early to achieve things in my day, but I find it really hard to get out of bed.
I'm the complete opposite. I go to bed at 7:30, my dream, just asleep by 8:30, and I get up at 5.
See, I'm with you, Jack. I'm
See, I'm
wired that
right.
way. I like getting
Yeah.
up early and not quite getting to bed at 7:30,
love
but
it. It's my life.
I would if I could.
But it's just possible to make it easier, you know. If you're the kind of person who wakes up a bit sort of cranky or sluggish in the morning,
Yes.
There are some ways to make yourself more of a morning person. So have I got your attention now?
Yes.
OK, so it's not that hard, you know. It's exercise, sleep well, and then a healthy breakfast full of carbohydrates and not too much refined sugar.
Nick, there's a great book called The Miracle Morning, one of my favourite books, and it talks about a healthy morning routine literally can change your life.
But Darcy, you'll be pleased to know you are allowed your morning coffee.
Thank you.
Yeah, just nothing within 6 hours of bedtime. I mean, it doesn't sound that groundbreaking. It just shows that being a morning or evening person, it's not just in our genes. It can be as simple as sleep, move, eat breakfast, repeat.
Love the habit training. Thank you to Dr. Nick Carr, to Jacqui Felgate, Joe Stanley. That's what we've got time for today.
Tune in to House of Wellness Radio every Sunday with Gerald Quigley and Luke Hines.
And don't forget the latest House of Wellness Lift Out with a focus on women's health.
Big thanks to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. It's bye for now.